Welcome back, everybody, to some more MLB The Show 22 franchise. Today, we are going to do something a little bit different here as we have a fantasy draft. Every year when the new sports games come out, I always love to hop into the fantasy drafts, and I'm excited to carry that tradition here into MLB The Show 22. Most of the stuff I do on franchise, I try to keep it realistic, and I'm running a full realistic series currently with the Cleveland Guardians that I just kicked off. I'll leave a card at the top right of your screen if that is your cup of tea. But today we're pretty much throwing realism out the window. So we're going to do a fantasy draft. I ended up picking the Toronto Blue Jays as our team simply because they have cool jerseys. That's really the only reason why I selected them. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go through the fantasy draft. We're going to draft our Major League roster. I didn't draft all of our prospects because we don't have time for that. And we're going to do a 3-year rebuild. So the goal is to win a championship within 3 years as we end up with the number 2 overall pick. Ronald Acuna goes 1 to the Padres, and it's really a no-brainer, I think, with the 2nd overall pick. Shohei Ohtani is the cover athlete here for MLB The Show 22, and this pick kills 2 birds with 1 stone. We're getting an ace on the mound, and we're getting a stud in our lineup. Since we had the 2nd overall pick in the fantasy draft, we had the 2nd to last pick in the 2nd round, and then it goes forward like that. We had the 3rd pick in round 2, 2nd to last in round 4, etc., etc. I wanted to add another pitcher here. I wanted to go with someone who was fairly young and wasn't on a super big contract, and Max Fried fit all of the above. Fried has been fantastic for Atlanta, so now we're adding a really good lefty to the rotation. Ohtani and Fried as our 1-2. That's pretty good. I wanted to add some talent in the lineup here in round 3. There were some good options in the outfield, but I've seen Bryan Reynolds develop very well in MLB The Show 22, so I figured that'd be a good reason to scoop him up. Hopefully he can replicate his success in the sim here. In the 4th round, I wanted to go a little bit more under the radar, and the player I ended up selecting isn't really a household name, but he does very well in MLB The Show sim, I've noticed so far, and that's Willy Adames, the shortstop from the Milwaukee Brewers, with a potential and somebody who succeeds in this game. I think that'd be a nice pick. Another player who has been good in MLB The Show for years is Pablo Lopez, the starter on the Miami Marlins. So we're going to add him to the rotation, and we have a great 3-headed monster with him, Max Fried, and Shohei Ohtani. Now we move to the 6th round. I wanted to add some pop to the lineup. Most of the first base options were kind of old and just not all that good, so I ended up going for Ryan Mountcastle here, a name we know pretty well here on the channel with our Orioles series in MLB The Show 21. In the 7th round, I added another MLB The Show simulation darling, that being Jorge Polanco, a player I've been eyeing up for a few rounds now. I know we have Willy Adames already, but I think Polanco could pretty easily slide over to second base, and he could start there for us. Now into the 8th round, I'm really liking the way this team is developing. I wanted to get somebody who was really young and could develop a little bit and hopefully be in the 80s by the time we make it to the end of this video, and I think Deivi Garcia could be that. He has a very high walks per 9, which is an important stat in this game, so I think he'll develop very nicely. We needed to add some juice to the bullpen, so we're going to go with Tyler Rogers here, 31 years old. He throws meatballs down the plate with an 18 velocity rating, but other than that, he's pretty good. And he makes it work. Even though he pitches slow, he gets out and he doesn't allow runs, so it does the job. Into round number 10 now. I didn't really want to pick a player who we had in the Guardian series already, but I'm not just going to let Franmil Reyes keep falling. So we're going to pick up the Franimal here in the 10th round, somebody who also does very well in MLB The Show simulation. We're going to pick Shea Langeliers, the young catcher from the Oakland Athletics organization. There weren't really many great options for as a catcher, so again, I figured I would go young here, get somebody who can develop, and by the end of the video, hopefully be in the 80s. Now, in the 12th round, I noticed there were some relievers really starting to go off the board quickly, so I figured I wanted to add another one here with Anthony Bender. He throws super hard, so pretty much the opposite of our first pick at reliever with Taylor Rogers. We're going to add our 5th starter here in round 13 with Spencer Turnbull. So we've used 5 of our first 13 picks on starting pitchers, and I'm really liking the way our rotation ended up. I think we have 5 quality starters, particularly if Deivi Garcia ends up developing into a good player like I think he will. In the 14th round, we're going to pick Alec Bohm, the corner infielder from the Phillies. He has pretty good hitting stats, and I feel like he could succeed here on our team. We're going to add another reliever here with Scott Barlow in the 15th round. I've seen him do pretty well in MLB The Show simulation. So, again, that's really my basis for picking. If I've seen you do well in this game, then it makes sense for me to pick you up. Lamont Wade Jr. here in the 16th round. He can't hit lefties at all, but he's great against righties, and you're going to face righties a majority of your at-bats. So I think that's a solid selection in round 16, even if he's only going to play against one side of the plate. When Lamont Wade doesn't play against lefties, Michael Brousseau will play in his place. He is very good against lefties, so I think that pick makes a lot of sense, having Wade and Brousseau on the same roster. John Curtis will be the pick here in the 18th round. I believe he is currently a free agent, or it doesn't say he's on a team here in the game. But his numbers look pretty good, so I figured I would pick him. We're going to pick another Miami Marlin pitcher here with Richard Blyer, who does not walk batters at all. 99 walks per 9, so with that rating being super high, maybe he'll be good. I don't know. David Bote is the pick here in round 20. He can play pretty much every position and is going to be a good backup for us. We're going to pick Kyle Freeland here as the long reliever. He does have beat potential, so maybe he can get that 73 up a little bit, although he is 28, so he's not really going to get a whole lot better. We're going to pick Rowan Wick here in the 22nd round, another bullpen arm. We really just have to fill out the bullpen and our bench here for these final few picks. Our backup catcher will be Chadwick Trump from the Atlanta Braves. That's a pretty fire name if you ask me. I figured, why not pick a guy like Billy Hamilton? I think we can really use his speed to our advantage. He doesn't have to start a whole lot, but he can be a pinch runner for us, and that certainly carries a lot of value. Drew Pomeranz is an 80 overall, so I don't really know why he's still on the board, but I'm not going to complain. We're going to scoop him up. And then with the final pick, I'm going to select Jalen Davis. I know this is kind of a weird pick because he's a 65 overall with C potential. Doesn't look like there's a whole lot of upside. But if you saw my video I uploaded a couple days ago on players you should trade for, I mentioned how Jalen Davis develops into a total stud. So we're going to simulate the rest of this draft. Since we're only going 3 seasons, the farm system isn't really that important for us as we end up with the 19th ranked team after the fantasy draft. But we do have a number 1 pitching staff, and our roster for the most part is mainly comprised of younger players. So I think we are in a good spot here for the long term, and obviously we will be able to make moves. We're going to make trades. We're going to sign free agents. This is certainly not what the final roster is going to look like, but I think this team could be competitive early on, especially with a very strong rotation of 4 guys being at least an 80 overall, and I think Deivi Garcia is quite fine as well. So we're going to simulate here up to the All-Star break, see how the team is doing, and then from there reassess. We're pretty much right in the middle. We're 50 and 48. We're not doing bad, but we're not really doing good either. We're 3rd in the AL East. We're 4 games back of the second wild card, which it's pretty much a 4-way mishmash up there, and we're sort of the 5th wheel. We only had 1 All-Star, and it ended up being Brian Reynolds. I think Shohei Ohtani probably should have been an All-Star, but what are you going to do? So I noticed Josh Hader was on the trade block. I figured, why not see what we could trade? And, well, apparently the Braves are willing to take on 2 older players who aren't even on the Major League roster for Josh Hader. So I'm not really going to complain there, and we're going to add Hader to the bullpen. We're going to trade 3 deep potential prospects for Miguel Sano. Sano is a free agent at the end of the season, but I have seen him develop pretty well in MLB The Show sim as well. We're going to simulate here the rest of the season, and sure enough, it would be a lot more mediocrity. 83 and 79 is our final record. Not good enough to make the playoffs, unfortunately, but it's not a big deal because we still have 2 more seasons to figure this out and get this team where we want to be. I thought we'd be a little bit better in year 1, but it's really not the end of the world. Some guys certainly struggled quite a bit. The Miguel Sano trade didn't really work out as I had hoped. The pitching was, in fact, very good. Other than Spencer Turnbull, our rotation was quite solid. The bullpen, on the other hand, not the best. We're certainly going to look to add there to the pen as the Rays end up winning the World Series. So Tampa Bay does get their championship after all. We have $131 million in available budget, and since this is just a fun rebuild video, I figured, why not splurge a little bit? We're going to start here with Trey Turner on a 6-year deal for $192 million. I know that's a lot of money, but it certainly is better than the Pirates bid for him. We're going to go after Taylor Rogers here. This is the brother of Tyler Rogers, who's already on our team. Even though they're siblings, they win in pretty much opposite ways. Taylor Rogers throws super hard, and as we discussed earlier, Tyler Rogers throws meatballs. Joe Musgrove is a guy who's always consistent in MLB The Show simulation. I think if we sign him, we'll make Spencer Turnbull the long reliever and keep Deivi Garcia in the rotation. And then I also went after Max Muncy, who has some great numbers here. The 234 average isn't ideal, but he gets on base at a high level. With his power and his defense, I think he could be pretty solid. So we're going after 4 pretty big names here with Trey Turner, Max Muncy, Taylor Rogers, and Joe Musgrove. We're going to see what happens here, and sure enough, all 4 players we offered end up accepting. So Max Muncy, Taylor Rogers, Trey Turner, and Joe Musgrove are all Toronto Blue Jays, and this team looks quite nice entering the second season of the video. We are now the first-ranked team in the game, really, with those just 4 signings and adding Josh Hader, of course. But this lineup certainly looks a lot better here in year number 2, and I like the way that this group looks. I think we could certainly perform a lot better than we did in year 1, maybe even win the World Series. Even if we do win the World Series, I do want to go 3 seasons today, so maybe we'll win this year and try to repeat. We're going to simulate here to the All-Star break once again, just like we did in the first season of the video. And yeah, we are balling out. 59-39, only 2 games ahead of Tampa Bay for first place in the AL East. It looks like it's going to be a tight race there. We had a number of All-Stars with Max Fried, Josh Hader, and Trey Turner end up making the squad. We're now going to simulate to the end of the season. There weren't any trades I really wanted to make. We ended up winning 100 games, which is good enough for the #1 seed in the American League. So we have the fast track to the World Series, and the American League will run through Toronto this year as we look at the numbers. We ended up having a pretty big award. Max Fried ended up winning the American League Cy Young. So even with Shohei Ohtani, Deivi Garcia, and Pablo Lopez performing worse than they did last year, a big season for Fried as he takes home the award. And now we're going to see who we play in the first round. It'll be the Angels who end up defeating the defending champion Rays in the wild card round. The Angels are led by Aaron Judge, amongst others. Their rotation is fine. I think they were like the 10th ranked team in the game, so not bad by any stretch, but I wouldn't say they scare me as we end up beating them in 4. Now here into the ALCS against the Rangers. They're like 3rd in the game. This team is loaded with Vlad Guerrero Jr., Alex Bregman, Corey Seager. They have a great rotation as well, and sure enough, we would get the doors blown off us in the first few games, but we would win the next 3. So we're in a Game 7, and we lose. I really wanted to see the Rangers blow a 3-1 lead. It's not going to happen as the Mets end up winning the World Series over Texas. So as we go into our final offseason of the video, getting ready for the 3rd and final season today, we've got a lot of big-time free agents. I ended up going after Ohtani, Polanco, and Billy Hamilton. We did let Josh Hader go. He wants like $20 million a season. That is outrageous for a reliever, especially considering we're already kind of rubbing up there on the budget. We have to be smart with how we spend. So instead, we're going to go after Will Smith, who is a very talented lefty. He will replace Josh Hader just fine. As long as he's not, coming up there and slapping any of the batters, I think we'll be A-okay. I also wanted to go after Rafael Devers. Our offer is way better than Tampa Bay's, even though he won, I think, the World Series MVP in year 1. So I don't know why the Rays are lowballing him, but you do you. Sure enough, we would get everybody we wanted. Devers and Smith are now here. We would have some trouble getting Shohei Ohtani back. The Dodgers offered him a big 10-year deal, so we're going to one-up them. I know it's a lot of money, but technically it's only for 1 year, so it's really not that big of a deal. And sure enough, Shohei Ohtani would end up re-signing, so it looks like he will be sticking around in Toronto for this final season. I wanted to make some trades here. We needed to clear some money pretty badly, so I'm going to send Joe Musgrove, Scott Barlow, and a prospect to Minnesota for Austin Meadows and Emmanuel Clase. We're going to get our full-time new closer and a big piece to the lineup with Meadows, another guy who has a lot of success in MLB The Show simulation. And then to replace Musgrove in the rotation, we're going to get John Means from the Yankees. We had to give up a few pieces there, most notably Alec Bohm, but I think it'll be worth it as Bohm has been pretty disappointing so far in this video, and John Means is another guy who does very well in this game. So this is what the lineup looks like here for the 3rd and final season today. Again, we are the #1 ranked team in the game, as expected. We do have some good players on the bench occasionally here and there, which just shows how good this roster is. And then the pitching rotation looks a little bit different as well. We, of course, added John Means to replace Joe Musgrove. No more Josh Hader, so now we have Will Smith and Emmanuel Clase. I think our new additions to the bullpen, specifically Will Smith, should hopefully help us get some more punch-outs. I'm sorry, that was a really bad joke. So we're going to simulate to the All-Star break. Sure enough, Will Smith ends up making it. Hopefully he didn't slap anybody in the face as he got his All-Star honor, but knowing him, you never know. Joining him is his fellow bullpen mate, Emmanuel Clase, who is a ridiculous 1.17 ERA, along with Rafael Devers and Brian Reynolds. So Reynolds ends up making it with the 3 new big acquisitions we made in the offseason. I wanted to make a trade, maybe get a bullpen arm, but we're like negative $12 million in debt, and there wasn't really anybody who was making a lot of money who I wanted to trade. So we're just going to stand pat as we end up 102-60, again, winning as the #1 seed in the conference. As we take a look at the stats here for the season, ton of home runs. We have a lot of power, plenty of guys who can hit the ball over the fence, and the pitching was very solid as well, although Max Fried had a significantly worse season than he did last year, but everybody else was quite good. The bullpen was a little bit shaky, but both of the Rodgerses, along with Smith and Clase, were very solid. So we have the Seattle Mariners here in the first round. The Rays end up losing the wild card round again. The Mariners are led by Juan Soto. They also have guys like Jose Barrios as the ace, Tim Anderson. They're a pretty good team, I'm not going to lie. They do scare me a little bit. But we would have no problems with them as we end up sweeping them, and we make it to the ALCS to face off against the Texas Rangers for a second year in a row. These are the same guys we played last year. They pretty much have the same roster, so hopefully we can get revenge. And they also have somebody with the last name Rock, so we better keep Will Smith away from their dugout. It wouldn't be the first time he punched somebody with the name Rock in the face. We're doing pretty well, currently up 3-1, and then we finish off the job. So we're going to go to the World Series as we have the Philadelphia Phillies, who ended up beating the Diamondbacks in 7 in the NLCS. The Phillies are led by Fernando Tatis Jr. They have a great rotation with Luis Severino, Trevor Bauer, Steven Strasburg, Alex Wood, and Hunter Green. Although I don't think Hunter Green even plays for him. I think he's still in the minors. So it's a pretty close start here, currently tied at 2. We would end up winning Game 5, so going into Game 6, we have a chance to win the World Series today, so I figured I would simcast it. We have Pablo Lopez on the mound against Luis Severino, 2 very strong pitchers, as we take a 1-0 lead there in the bottom of the second. We had another run there in the third, so a pretty good start here for Toronto. Pablo Lopez with 6 scoreless innings. He has certainly done his job. I kept him in the 7th. It might have been a mistake. So now we're going to go to the bullpen here in the 8th. Currently up by 3 runs. We shouldn't blow this here with Tyler Rogers into the game, and we blow it. So now it's tied up after a 3-run homer by Fernando Tatis Jr. Taylor Rogers comes in, his brother, here in the 9th inning, and he will get through at 1-2-3. So now in the bottom of the 9th inning, we can walk it off to win the World Series. Reyes strikes out, but Adames gets a base hit, and Langeliers grounds into a double play. So we're going to go to the 10th inning. I'm going to keep Taylor Rogers in, and that might be a little bit of a mistake because he's allowing some base runners after Nico Goodrum walks. We're going to take him out of the game here. We're going to put in Will Smith to get this last punch out, and they score. They're going to count it as an error, though. Maybe we should give Will Smith another Oscar for his acting job on it being an error rather than poor pitching. So now can we come up clutch here in the bottom of the 10th? The answer is no. So the Phillies end up winning the game 5-4. So now that means we are headed into a Game 7. The whole video comes down to this. Can we win the World Series here in Game 7? So Deivi Garcia could have started, and I thought about sticking with him, but Max Fried did win the Cy Young a couple years ago. He's pitching well here in the playoffs, along with Garcia, but I ended up going with Fried. We'll see if that decision pays off. The Phillies have Steven Strasburg on the mound for them, and so far it's a pitcher's duel, but we score 3 in the 3rd. Philadelphia answers with 2 in the 4th, so it seems like both lineups are now starting to get things together. Into the 6th inning, I did want to pitch Deivi Garcia today, so we're going to have him come out of a bullpen. Hopefully he can keep this up, and he is doing quite well as we had another run there in the 7th. So now we move into the 9th inning. We're up by 2. It looks like we have the game 1. Emmanuel Clase is in for the save, looking to finish off the job. And now with 1 more out, we allow a walk. And now the tying run is up to bat. It's Brian Anderson. So I figured, why not hop in the game? We'll take a look and see if the World Series celebration is any different, assuming we win. As Anderson flies it into foul territory, it's caught by Max Muncy. And there you go. We do end up completing the challenge and winning the World Series as Emmanuel Clase is fired up after finishing off the job. Hopefully not the only time we will see him do that this year on the channel with our Cleveland Guardians series, but Nonetheless, a great way to end the season and the video. It ended up taking us the full 3 years to win the World Series, but we were able to finish off the job with 200-win seasons in the last 2 years. We needed a Game 7 here in this World Series, but we were able to finish it off. And it looks like based on the celebration here, it's pretty much the same thing as last year. Maybe some small changes, but for the most part, it's pretty much the same, which I guess is to be expected. Would have been cool if they had done something different, but I guess we weren't really expecting it, as they do show some reactions. There's Franmil Reyes fired up. Austin Meadows, he just more looks like it's a sigh of relief from him, and now he prays to the heavens. Thank God we actually won it. So there you go. The manager is going to hold up the trophy. And there you go. We complete the challenge. The Toronto Blue Jays are World Series champions. So that's pretty much going to conclude the video. Hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know what challenges you would like to see me do in the future. I'm certainly opposed to doing some creative things. I think I have a possible rebuild challenge in my head that I think would be a lot of fun. So yeah, hope everybody enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe. Peace out.